Okay, welcome everyone. So nice of you to all watch my YouTube channel again. I'm here today with Trevor Baldwin from Spirited Talk, or on Facebook, Friends of Spirited Talk. And I'm a little bit nervous because he's the professional interviewer. He interviews dozens of mediums, healers, coaches, whatsoever. And I'm guessing he's a little bit nervous because he's got to do the talking today and not asking. So welcome, Trevor. So really nice of you to join me and do this. I'm glad you said yes to my question. And what I would like to ask you first is what I ask all my guests first is, what brought you on the spiritual path to begin with?
Well, it was at the beginning of this century, because that sounds, so ancient. It was actually the year 2000 when things started to go a bit pear-shaped in my life. And there, but for the grace of God go I, was really my top phrase at that time, because I'd lost my job. My father died, my car was stolen, and my marriage broke down. And they all happened within a period of maybe 6 or 7 months.
Oh, gosh.
And it all started because I was stood in my new flat that I had in Weymouth, stood at the window one night looking out, and in the shop window opposite, it was a chemist shop, in the shop doorway, I noticed a tramp settling down with his blankets and his cardboard box, and he settled in the doorway. And that's when I said the saying to myself out loud on my own, there but for the grace of God go I, because I was that close. I had no job. My marriage was broke. I had debt. My father was now gone and my car was stolen. So everything that was important to me had gone at that moment. And within maybe 6 months, maybe within 6 months, maybe 9 months actually, I met my current partner, Jane.
Yeah.
Which was unusual in those days because it was through the internet. And within a short while of being with Jane, amazing coincidences started to happen. Now, before that, I had absolutely no knowledge or experience or interest even in spirit. And that's one of the things that we should always remember, that people that are born talented in spirit terms may not be aware of it until somebody tells them about it much later in life.
Yeah,
And
true.
that was what was happening with me. But there was some absolutely amazing coincidences that were happening that I just couldn't understand why. It doesn't make sense. That can't make sense. And at the same time, we had started, I'd moved in with Jane up the north, and we'd started to watch a program called Paranormal TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the network channels. And on there, I started to get interested in a guy called John Edward. He's an American medium. And I just thought, this is edited. This guy can't be doing this. You can't talk to dead people. That's absolutely crazy. And it got me interested. And at the same time, there was a guy called Colin Fry on a program called The Sixth Sense. Oh, and by the way, was a guy called Tony Stockwell, who was doing his investigation series.
Yeah.
I'm watching this thinking, come on, get real. Do you know, I often say, I remember in the 1960s, we were all conned by a program that was on British TV in the daytime. Your wonderful partner Jason will know this. There was a program called Wrestling on a Saturday afternoon, and we all used to sit. Everybody used to sit in front of the TV watching the wrestling, and we used to think it's brilliant. It was people like Jackie Parlow, Mick McManus, and Giant Haystacks, and it was all done with a guy called Kent Walton. He was the commentator, and he would used to say, "Oh my God," and he would overemphasize the problems. And it was maybe 5 or 6 years after that suddenly we all learned that it was fake, that it was being made up. It wasn't, it was choreographed wrestling. And I'll tell you what, as a kid, that hurt me because, I'd liked Big Daddy, as one of them was called, for years. And now I just realized he was a dancer, effectively. Well, that's what I thought was happening with mediumship. I thought that John Edward, Colin Fry, they were not really doing anything, and it was choreographed to make it a show on TV. And the turnaround came when I watched a John Edward show, And as you'll know, those that have watched that show, Crossing Over, he has a habit at the end of the show, when the credits are rolling, he'll go to the audience and ask if anybody's got a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already started to investigate the subject, by the way. And anyway, he went to the audience, and a lady said, "Are you born gifted? Do you have to be born gifted as a medium, or can anybody do this?" Now, between that and his answer, there was, my mind answered the question 1,000 times. I thought, here we go. I've been looking at this for 6 months. Here is his chance to cop out. This is a cop out. He's going to say, "I was born gifted. Nobody can do this. You know, I'm special." And so I was waiting. So I sort of moved forward on my sofa. I got a little bit nearer. "Go on, tell us I can't do this. Tell us." And he looked at the cameras, and in the smooth way that he does, he said, "We're all born the same. We all have the same potential. I'm not born gifted. I'm no more gifted than you or I. Let me just say, madam, if you would like to put the time in and the effort and study and do what's necessary, you too can also be a medium." And I thought, I've never done anything in my life. I've failed in most things that I've done. Surely this is something I might have an interest in and I might be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when it started. I turned from being a researcher of it, which I had been for 12 months, into somebody that needed to find out, had I really got any potential? Could I really do anything with this?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start of the journey to where we are right now. Does that answer?
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, looking back at 2000, I didn't really believe in anything. So yeah, and amazing how this brought you on to your current path as well, because, you know, like you said, you were down in the dumps and wasn't looking too bright in your life. And look at you now, you know, so look where getting in touch with spirit has brought you. And that's, I always find that wonderful. And I do relate to these shows. We had them in Holland as well. And I still think some of it was scripted. I mean, obviously they need to cut out the best bits for television, but there is a genuinity to it as well.
But you know what, Ursula? A lot of people have said to me, "John Edward, though, come on, that guy has to be edited. That show has to be edited. After all, you know, it's American TV, and that's what they do."
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, 10, 15 years ago now, probably, John Edward came to the UK to do a tour. Now, that's not surprising to many of his fans because he comes most years. But to me, as somebody that was looking into this, what, the fantastic John Edwards come into England? Wow, let me have a look at his tour dates. And I found out that he visited every year a tiny little theatre in Torquay called the Princess Theatre. And I seen that there were tickets available, and I bought 2 tickets, one for me and one for my friend James. And we travelled from where I lived at that time, Bournemouth, down to Torquay to watch John Edward. And believe me, I was not expecting anything. Like you, I thought, this guy, this is all edited, you know, so we're going to see what he's like. Well, his lady introduced him onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, John Edward." And I thought, what's he going to look like? And he came on with his jeans and his T-shirt. And I thought, oh, right, casual as always. Jeans and T-shirt. He had a stool and he had his microphone and a glass of water. And for the next hour and a half, what I seen just blew me out of the water. That wasn't edited. It was live. And he was absolutely passing messages that were unbelievable. In fact, I'll go to say, at one point, he went to a lady on the right-hand side of the audience. There was 2,000 people there. And he gave her a message and he said, "Sorry, wait there a moment." He turned and he went over here and he said, "That lady there, stand up a minute. Do you two know each other?" And she said, "Oh, sorry, I lost my internet. No, are we all right?"
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah.
Oh, apologies. And she stood to this lady and she said, "Sorry, do you two know each other?" And they was like shouting across the audience, "No, no, no." He said, "You do. You do. You are related because they're telling me." And, you know, he asked this lady, and this lady, you could see her face when she realized that that was one of her cousins. She went, "Oh my God." And I seen that, and it was one of those shiver moments. And I thought, John Edward, he is amazing. So there is editing, of course, but
still, I mean, that's what I also believe. There's still genuine talent, if you want to call it that, there. So would you say that's what brought you on to doing what you're doing today? Because I mean, doing all these podcasts, plot classes, plot stories. I see you doing a lot on Facebook. If anyone's interested, have a look at Friends of Spirited Talk on Facebook, and there's a wealth of recordings there that you can listen to with various people. And but it must take up a lot of your time and effort to do that. What made you do that? What made you decide, right, I'm going to start recording pod classes now and podcasts and, you know?
Do you know what? There's times that we want to credit ourselves for everything that happens in our lives. We're actually we're going through the motions because it's the path that Spirit lie for us. They put that path for us and they guide us onto the path. Because when I look back at the podcast now, and I look it back how I started, I was completely naive. I'd never done any interviewing in my life. I knew nothing about all this technical gear. Yeah, no, absolutely. Didn't know a thing about it. I was actually running my own courier business, which is delivering urgent logistics all the way around the UK. So every day I was traveling 12 hours of driving away from home, 200-300 miles down, 200-300 miles back. That was every day. But while I was doing that, I was listening to a podcast by the wonderful Sandra Champlain, We Don't Die, an American lady that does much the same as me. And I realized that I thoroughly enjoyed listening to her. She interviewed guests. She did it slightly different than what I do. And I remember going in, it was sort of November of 2019 that I said to Jane one day in the house, she knew that I was getting tired of the driving. I wasn't really making any money at it. And she said, well, what else can you do? I said, I don't know. I quite fancy the idea of doing a podcast about spiritualism. And she said, well, you've got a good voice. You can do it. Now, for my Jane to say that anything good about me was like, what? I can do something? You actually have faith that I could do something? And, you know, as sensitives, that spark inside us is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
So over that period of time, I then started to plan, could I do a podcast? I don't know anything about it. I haven't got any equipment. I have no idea. So and then I realized I can't do it straight away because this needs a lot of planning. So I set a date for April the 20th, which is coming up, of last year, for the first episode to go out. And the very first episode I actually recorded while I was on holiday in Lanzarote. So that's episode 1, which is terrible. Truly is. Do not listen to that, people. They're
all going to go and listen to that one now. You realize that.
In fact, I know by the numbers it's the least listened to. So, but yeah, that's how it came. I had no experience. I had no idea what I was doing. There was no format. There was no levels of professionalism. But what has happened over the last year, I've learned how to do this proper. I've learned how to have the right equipment, how to make the right recording, how to ask the right questions, and how, as an interviewer, to stay out of it. So one of the things when people listen to my episodes, podcasts, and pod classes, they will notice I play a very little part in it. I don't want to be in it. It's not about me. It's about my guests. So yeah, that's it really. It's very popular at the moment and I'm very excited about that. So.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah, it's wonderful. I really enjoyed listening to them. So we haven't got much time left. What are your plans for the future? I'm sure you have loads of plans and I would love to talk some more, but I have set myself this time limit of 20 minutes for the YouTube. So maybe I'll just have to invite you back and let you talk some more. But yeah, the future. Have you got any big plans coming up? Anything that you want to share with people?
You're very good. You are. You know, I should have used those lines when I interviewed your Jason, because I should have said, Jason, I need to come back and talk to you. I'm sorry, I do talk. I'm very excited about what I do, Ursula,
I
and
love it. It's wonderful.
will understand. What are my plans? It's to keep growing Spirited Talk. We have an amazing community. We just hit 600 over the last few days of people in the group. Now, I'm not one of those that understands technical stuff. I don't go out of my way to bring people in. This is what I call organically grown. This is people that just find us, that stumble on the website, stumble on the podcast, and come in and say, oh, I like this. I'll stay with this. I don't advertise, as you know. So that's it. It's basically to keep growing this. This is now my full-time job, which sounds wonderful, but I don't make any money out of it because there is no money in podcasting, people. But this is my full-time job. I want to grow Spirited Talk. We're already in 37, 38 countries in the world that we've been downloaded. And I think 20% of our listeners, 26% of our listeners are in the USA. So I'm very, very pleased. Just keep doing what we're doing. Keep doing it right. Keep an eye on the vision. What was the vision that I had when I started this? I keep my eye on that. Stay humble as much as I can in this, which is difficult when you've got a microphone and a camera. Stay humble and grow Spirited Talk to do what it's doing. And the vision is simply to educate and to inform and to bring the best knowledge, the best people through this audio process to the people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. So thank you very much for joining me today. I really enjoyed it. It's been wonderful listening to your stories about the television shows and the mediums that were big in those days. I think some of them are not even with us anymore, sadly. Yeah, so thank you again for joining me. And who knows, I said the same to some of my other guests. I might have to ask you back because there's just so many interesting things to learn about people. And if thank you all for watching, and if you like what I'm doing, subscribe to my channel, and I will be sharing this on Facebook, and I will be putting the links to Trevor's Facebook page, Facebook group I should say, below. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.